Okay, great. So yeah, we're super thrilled to have our New York State Assembly District 12 candidate here with us, Craig Herskowitz.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Craig Herskowitz. I was born and raised in Northport. Um, I went to college at American University in DC, law school at Quinnipiac in Connecticut, and moved back to DC to work for the government. I was an attorney at the FBI and the Department of Justice. Moved back to New York City to work for JP Morgan, but didn't like the private sector, so went back into public service and was appointed assistant counsel to the governor, where I was the chief legal advisor for all financial matters in the state of New York. And I was there during COVID, where I implemented telehealth and waiving copays for the vaccine. I became a judge and resigned as a judge to run for office and became the Democratic nominee for state Senate 2 years ago, which was a very bad year for Democrats. And after Donald Trump got elected, I knew it was going to get really bad for immigrants in our community. So I decided to become an immigration attorney. And that's what I'm doing now. I fight every day to get people out of detention. Last year, I was the Democratic nominee for Suffolk County Legislature, District 18, and I lost by 249 votes against a popular incumbent who outspent me 12 to 1. This year, there's no incumbent. Thanks to the matching fund program, we are outraising our opponent, and we are the number one seat to flip on Long Island. So we're really, really excited about this race. And, we, noticing, at the doors already that the pendulum has swung, so far. I'm seeing the early signs of a blue wave. People are not happy with what's going on the federal level. They don't like these random ICE raids that are hurting families and hurting the community.
Mm-hmm.
And all these independent voters who 2 years ago thought Democrats were soft, weak, and woke are coming back to us because they are, really disturbed about what's going on the federal level, but also on the local level. My big pitch is that I'll be part of the majority conference, and I'll be able to bring more money into the district. As someone who've negotiated state budgets with the Senate and the Assembly, I can tell you Republicans just don't have a seat at the table, and I will ensure that we get our fair share of state funds. I know most of Islip has Assemblyman Ramos, who is a champion of bringing money back into the district. My portion only has a little bit of Islip. I got a little bit of the Bayshore area, and then and then Deer Park, right where the where the Tanger Outlet Mall is. So we're focusing a lot this election on the Deer Park and Islip portion of my district. The Islip portion of my district is very, very Democratic. It always votes for the Democratic candidate, but it's also the smallest portion of my district. So we're definitely trying to focus on getting people to turn out to vote in Islip because it's our Democratic stronghold area. And then the Deer Park portion of our district, that's the blue collar worker who voted for Republican but are not MAGA. They're independent, working class families, and they are supporting me in this election. I'm having great conversations at the doors, and so we are reaching voters, and we're trying to get young people involved. Whether it's door knocking or just social media. I hate social media. I hate feeding the algorithm monster. You just got to just keep on posting. But our social media presence is taking a lot of notice. I'm meeting families in Deer Park yesterday, and they said they saw my videos online, so it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I need the young people to help me with the social media because I am terrible at it. Like I just do Facebook, and I don't understand Instagram or TikTok or all the other social media platforms. So that's why, I need the help of young people to reach people and to engage people and get people involved. So, I want to thank you for being involved, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much. So, of course, we have a couple of questions to help guide the conversation, but if anybody here wants to ask their own questions first, of course, we would want to hear from you guys first.
Um, Hi, Craig. I'm obviously not a young Dem. Uh, I belong to the Islip Dems, and I wanted to just come on and listen to you talk and, um, just kind of see what the younger Dems are up to. I have been watching this craziness in New Jersey with Delaney Hall. And how can we prevent something like that from happening here in our backyard? Because that was just absolutely, it's just insane.
Yeah, and honestly, it's going to get worse before it gets better. With all these facilities, and the administration is revoking visas and just randomly grabbing people, with no notice, just to fill these detention facilities. So it's really, really horrific what's going on the federal level. I know the governor of New Jersey, tried to go in, and they refused to let her out. And when you're dealing with the federal government, they can do whatever they want, and and they don't mind the lawsuits, because it just delays the process. I represent people who are in detention facilities, and we're litigating and we're winning in the courts,
Mm-hmm.
but they're being detained for months while the court process plays out, and there's like no reason why these people need to be detained at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great chaos. It's purely punitive. They're trying to hurt people, and they're trying to make it difficult for attorneys to represent their clients. So I think it's extremely important that we as a community, stand up and fight against all this, and I'm incredibly proud of our community for fighting against ICE expansion into our areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think that's what we got to do, is be unified, and protest, and stand up to this administration. And I am optimistic about the midterm elections, where we're going to finally have some checks and balances on this administration. Um, so, but I think that's the crucial part, is we really need to win in the midterms and send like a strong, strong message, because 2 years ago, when I was knocking on doors, the number one issue I heard was immigration. People were like, "Why are we spending money housing migrants, giving migrants debit cards?" Even immigrants in the community, there was a lot of resentment. So
Mm-hmm.
this administration thinks that they have like a mandate on immigration. So we need to send a strong message in the midterms that no, this is not what we signed up for. You know, we all supported getting rid of actual criminals who were
Criminals,
dangerous to
right?
society, but we're not. We don't want to target random people at 7-Elevens and bus stops, and arresting people who are working, who are paying taxes, who done nothing wrong other than either entered the country without inspection, or overstayed their visa. These people should not be put in detention. Because in criminal cases, after you're arrested, you got 24 hours to see a judge. These people are spending weeks, months in detention before they can even see a judge. And
The level of cruelty just blows my mind.
yeah, 100%. And this kind of reminds me of the internment camps during World War II. I mean,
Yeah.
history is repeating
Mm-hmm.
itself. And it's really, really, really horrific what this administration is doing, and judges now are afraid of this
Mm-hmm.
administration. They're getting fired if they grant asylum or grant bond. And that's why we have to go to federal court, go to the Article 3 judges, because they're
Mm-hmm.
not afraid of this administration. So what's frustrating for me is I'll do a bond hearing, and the judge says they have no jurisdiction, and then I'll go to federal court, and the federal court judge will say, no, you do have jurisdiction, and
Mm-hmm.
then they'll say, oh, they're a flight risk, and then you got to go back to federal court. So it's just
A
they're
game.
it's a game,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just cruel, and there's no reason for it at all. And I think they're looking at the profit off these detention facilities, and try to keep as many
Mhm.
people in there as possible. But yeah, I mean, we really need to stand up and push back against this administration because I am afraid it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Is there anything like that locally that the federal government is using or could seek to use as a detention center, like right in our backyard here?
Nothing that I am aware of. I think uh, a lot of this is political.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, they're trying to punish people politically. And I don't know if Long Island is considered a political target of the Trump administration, where
Mm-hmm.
they want to create, havoc and chaos because, you do have, those wealthy donors out east who, rely on immigration labor, so, it's where this administration wants to create the chaos. And that's not to say they're going to try to create the chaos on Long Island. I mean, because I do know of random ICE raids. I mean, I do know
Mm-hmm.
of workers who got picked up, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ICE is conducting, their raids here. Um, but yeah, I don't. We're still waiting to see, what this administration's plans are. But and I got my little young Dem right here.
Yay!
This is
The next
Eli.
generation.
Eli, say hi to everybody.
Well, my grandson just turned 18 in February, so hopefully he registered to vote. But he lives in Florida, which we all know is not a cool, not a good place to be a Democrat right now. But I have to say, I have seen the tide turn there as well. So,
Yep, absolutely.
there is hope. I think people are just, and like you said, nobody has an objection to that for them to deport criminals. That's
Right.
fine. But
Mhm.
when your neighbor is being picked up and good people, that's the kind of stuff that I just can't tolerate.
Yeah, and I think most people, agree with that sentiment, and that's why the blue wave is forming because the pendulum has swung way too far, and people are saying how horrific and cruel this administration is, and that they wanted to stand up and say, look, this is not what we wanted when we said we wanted to secure the border.
Right.
This, so yeah, I do think. Um, things will come back to normal hopefully a little bit after the midterms, after we finally get some checks and balances. But obviously now the administration is playing its games with gerrymandering and making things
Mm-hmm.
difficult because they got to pick their voters. They can't run on the merits.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed, and as hopefully, as my mother used to say, from your lips to God's ears, because we need a miracle, really, just to. I'm done. Every day I wake up and say, is he still here, or did he die overnight? So
yeah, I mean the level of corruption. I mean they're just doing it out in the open. They think if they lie and cheat and steal in the open, they can get away with everything. But
mm-hmm.
I'm glad to see there's some pushback now. Against the $1.8 billion slush fund, and I think Republicans are starting to see how unhinged the president is, and that we do need checks and balances, and so I am optimistic.
Hey, listen, that's what the founding fathers said. I think they realized at some point this could happen, and that was the premise for the Constitution. So not one person should have all of that power. It's just not good. So,
Yep.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I don't know if I live in Bayshore, but I'm not sure if hold on, I have to check something.
Yeah. Well, if you can check on my website, I have a interactive map that you can zoom in and see the streets.
I actually had my card here.
Oh, good.
Beautiful. While we're waiting on Rosemary to check, Harry, I see you have your hand raised.
No, you're not my cat. No. Okay.
You have time to move.
Well, good luck. Thank you for answering my question. So,
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. Harry, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, hey, hi, Craig. I wish I could vote for you. Unfortunately, um, I don't think we have you for our district. We're in Holbrook.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking to local detention centers, we've heard some rumblings about some of the IRS facilities. There's a federal building sort of adjacent to it in Holtzville.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some rumblings. I know there was pushback from the town, but it's unclear how much the town has any say in what they're going to do with the federal building. And so far, the rumblings have died down because there was pushback, but I don't know if that's permanently put to bed. Sorry, got my son. But I did want to ask, sort of, from your perspective with your background in law, the blatant illegality that we see. I mean, is there any hope of holding this administration accountable, on a state level, or from a state attorney general's perspective, maybe, or it just feels like, and you spoke to it already. There's just such lawlessness and corruption out in the open. How do we get to a place, and I know, like, it's, we have to have a blue wave, we have to vote, but it's also seeping into even the electoral process, and the Supreme Court signing off on making racism okay again. Like, what's the path forward, and what's the path to more direct and immediate accountability, just from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, the federal government.
I really need to find stuff.
The federal government has sovereign immunity, and so it's really, really hard because they can get away with anything. They can commit these crimes, and there's not going to be any accountability. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the accountability is going to happen, after this administration leaves. And I mean, I do think a lot of the attorneys are going to be disbarred because of the level of corruption that this administration is doing. Because, like, if you have any integrity, you get fired. But if you're a loyal sycophant willing to compromise, your integrity, you get promoted. And look, and I think this administration is causing lasting damages to a lot of our agencies, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild it. My friends at the FBI are, being forced to drop serious investigations to conduct ICE raids. And, so unfortunately, the accountability really comes at, at the polls, for voting. I mean, there is accountability in the courts, but you can't sue the government for damages. You can't get any money, from the government, which is why, they're able to, do whatever they want, because, they're going to detain all these people. And even if the court says their detention is illegal, government doesn't have to give them any money. They're going to say, sovereign immunity. But that's not to say if a new administration comes in, and provide compensation, to these victims. So, yeah, and obviously with the Supreme Court backing this administration, and then Congress, too spineless to challenge this administration, because anyone who doesn't support the president 100% gets primaried and loses their job. So that's just the unfortunate reality that we're living in now. And it really just comes down to holding people accountable. And, speaking to your friends, speaking to your neighbors. Look, I mean, you're not going to persuade a MAGA person, but the independent voters, we need to get them back. In New York, we lost a lot of independent voters because of bail reform and because of the migrant crisis. but it's like talking to these voters, making sure they vote, and also making sure Democrats vote. There's so many Democrats who just stay home and don't, because if Democrats vote, we win. So we just really just got to motivate every single person to come out to vote. And this is really fighting for the soul of our country, and it's fighting for democracy, it's fighting for accountability, and and it's really fighting for integrity. And the Republican Party is no longer the party of values or integrity. And we need to be unwavering in our values and stand up against this administration. But it is going to be very challenging, for the next foreseeable future.
Do you think if there's a blue wave in November, God, let's hope, do you see then the change coming where Trump would be out, there would be impeachment or something where he would be arrested or thrown in jail or something?
Yeah, I don't think that there'll be impeachment, because you're still not going to have the votes in the Senate to remove him. I think a lot of it has to be focused on investigations. We have to get the subpoena power back, and finally hold people accountable. All these, yes men that just serve Trump and not serve the people. We can target those individuals. So we need to start holding everybody accountable, and holding elected officials and appointed officials accountable to the people, and they serve us, not the president. So I do think once if we take Congress back, then there will be a lot more accountability and a lot less of this administration hurting people.
From a state legislation perspective, because you're going to be in the state legislature, hopefully, what kind of policy prescriptions do you have, in your back pocket to sort of, help to stop the bleeding and protect New Yorkers from our federal government?
Well, I would like to see some of the assets of all the the Trump family members. They are profiting off of this. So asset forfeiture is something that I specialized when I was at the Department of Justice, and I would like to seize and forfeit all the assets of people who are profiting off of this illegality that they're doing. But really, on the state level, look, we could pass laws, requiring ICE to wear masks, but they don't have to follow those laws, because the federal government supersedes the state law. So it's really on the state level is really just organizing people, and being unified, and being aggressive against any attacks on members of our community, and also being supportive of members of our community. Anything that I could do to bring money into the district that that could help in any way, that's going to be my priority. My focus is bringing money into the district. Affordability is the big issue this election, but from ICE getting involved, it's really just organizing peaceful protests against them, and being vocal and opposing them. But we are very limited on the state level of what we can do to impact federal activity.
Well, let's just pray that Governor Hochul gets reelected and Bruce Blakeman is not our governor, because we'll be in a shitload of trouble.
Well, kind of
Yeah,
building off of that, like I know like a piece of legislation that has been kind of like floating around is in like New York for all. So is that something that like you would, co-sponsor, or would that be something that you try to push for once you
yeah,
get into your seat?
yeah. I definitely support New York for All. I was at a New York for All rally. Um, and yeah, and I think we want to make sure that our local law enforcement doesn't cooperate with ICE.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Local law enforcement should only cooperate with ICE if they have a judicial warrant. That's the only way that there should be any interaction with ICE. But they should not be participating in any civil enforcement at all, and they shouldn't be providing any staging grounds or support for ICE. Um, so I would make sure that our local law enforcement does not cooperate with ICE, and you know I will be meeting with the PBA, and I've made it perfectly clear that I'm not supporting any local law enforcement cooperation with ICE.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, or we could ask one or two, some more guiding questions just to keep the conversation flowing, but we'll only ask like one or two more, and then I think, we'll let you all have your nights back,
Mm-hmm.
but if anybody else has any other questions, feel free to step forward.
So I got a quick question for you, Craig. So what are some of the like a few things that you plan on doing to like actually activate that independent voter? That previously like Trump voter, it's really not like go hard MAGA, but someone you can flip. What are some of the tactics you plan on using?
Yeah, so the number one most effective way is door knocking. So canvassing. So we're knocking on doors. We're knocking on independent doors already, um, and listening to the independent voters, and listening to people who voted for Trump, who some regret voting for Trump, but also some who still are glad that they voted for Trump, but also recognize on the local level, we are not getting our fair share of funds from Albany. Um, and then, after door knocking, it's, social media. So trying to reach people that way. We're shooting a lot of videos and content to reach these voters. Eventually we start doing mail. Um, I think July 1st, I'll get my matching funds, and we plan on doing a mailer to everyone. And then we'll eventually do a poll. And based on the results of the poll, the Assembly Democrats have indicated they can invest up to $1 million into this race. So we're feeling really good about, that poll. So we'll do that later. But, those are really the main ways that, we're targeting these independent voters. Um, and, and I think so far it's been
He has just, oh my goodness. Sorry about that.
okay. All right.
Continue, sorry.
I lost my train of thought, but we can move
I'm
on.
s- no, you're talking about about a poll, I think you said, and
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we'll do that poll, and but yeah, I mean, but the big thing is really door knocking. That's the most effective way to reach people.
Great, thank you. And yeah, no, I think that's definitely, I think that's always the answer for any election is just like that direct voter contact. So do you have any I can always put it in a follow-up email. Do you have any like resources of like, do you have like regular Canvas launches going, or phone banking opportunities for people to get involved with your campaign?
Yeah, I mean, you can sign up on the website, craigfornewyork.com. We're always happy to help. Anyone, any involvement. Um, if you know anybody in the Bayshore portion of my district, I don't really know anyone there.
Mm.
So I'm looking to, get involved in the Bayshore portion. Leanne told me that's like a hard area to canvas. So I haven't started that yet, but I'll be attending a rally with Phil Ramos this week. Um, but yeah, I mean, any help anyone can give me with connecting me with people in the Bayshore portion, so I can just start talking to people there and getting my name out there, because you know people know me in Huntington, and people are starting to get to know me in Deer Park. But I want people in Islip to know who I am. Even though these are really great Dems who are just going to vote straight blue across the line. I still want to reach out to them. And so, yeah.
Do you know what part of Bayshore your district is in? Like where?
Yeah, it's right across from where the Tanger's Outlet Mall is. It's just a little sliver. But if you go to the website, you can zoom in and see exactly where it is.
So it's where Babylon and Islip, like those two towns, come together.
Right.
That
Right.
point. Okay,
Right.
so I'm thinking like off of Crooked Hill Road and up in that area.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay, so that's more like North Bayshore.
Yeah, and it's like it's right past the Sagatos Parkway.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll send you the interactive map from his website, Roseberry. I'll send it to you.
Well, I was just trying to see if I knew anybody who lived in his district that I could, speak to. That's why I was trying to, but because I know I'm in no Assembly, New York Assembly 6. So, but
Yeah,
I was
no,
just
a lot of most of Islip is either in 6 or 7. So
yeah. So I was trying to figure out where it was, so that if I knew somebody up in that area, but I really don't know anyone that lives up in that area.
yeah, no,
So,
and I think a good like final closing question, if anybody else has anything, but I think our final question, especially as our Young Dems meeting. So, what legislation do you plan to bring to Albany that will advocate for young people?
You tell me what the young people need.
Well, right
Yeah.
now, I mean, definitely like I think like LGBTQ rights are a big thing, and definitely like making sure that like they have that support in their schools and
Mhm.
things like that. But
But Albany is pretty good about that now, right? Isn't it? Or is there anything
well,
in?
I mean, I know I remember last year there was a bill that Monica Martinez put onto the assembly that would like ban trans athletes from competing in the sports that align with their gender. I remember that
Mhm.
happening. And oh my gosh, my cat is being relentless today. But yeah, so there are small things that come out. I mean, they never get anywhere because we have a majority Democrat
Right.
um assembly, but every once in a while you see that that we have anti-trans bills that are introduced, and sometimes Democrats will cross party lines to promote that legislation. So
Right.
mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And I think a lot of those controversial legislation pieces, it's more for show, but things work behind the scenes to kill those bills. Um, but yeah, I mean, I attended the Pride flag raising event in Northport, and proud to support the LGBTQ plus community.
mm-hmm. Also, I belong to the Islip Town AARP group, and we're part of the advocacy. We were just up in Albany on May 12th and went to like our local representatives, letting them know the things that are important to our seniors. So Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, of course, caregiving, protecting like the cost of electric, property taxes for seniors here. So when you are elected and you are in Albany, you will most likely see us with our AARP shirts, marching through the halls of the state building, and letting our representatives locally on a local level know what's important to us seniors. And we pretty much make up the bulk of the voting population. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's very important to us as seniors, especially Social Security and our health care. So
Yeah, last week I attended a beach cleaning event with AARP, so I'm
you
proud.
did? Which
Yep,
what group was it? Was it the Huntington or Smithtown?
Yeah, Huntington.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. We were all on the same bus going. We all went up together. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So those are the things that are important to us, um and should be important to our elected officials.
Yep. Yeah,
We,
absolutely.
all right.
So I'm happy to champion the issues for the young people and the less young people.
That was polite. That was very politically correct. Hey, listen, I don't care that I'm old. I'm thankful that I made it to the age that I am. I'm in my 70s and I worked hard and I don't want anybody messing with my social security. So,
Mhm.
that's
And I
important.
want security when I retire.
Exactly. And I don't want nobody messing with it. So
Yep.
it's not an entitlement, not when you work for 55 years and
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and just on that note, voter, they always say like voter engagement between like the 18 to 25 range is always like we're always last. So,
Mhm.
do you have any plans for your campaign specifically of how you're going to reach that specific age group to really turn out to vote for you?
I'm sorry. So, say that again. Oh no, you hurt your toe. So, how to reach young people? Was that the question?
Yeah, so like how do you plan to get like, we always hear that like 18 to 25 like that we're always in last in like voter participation and in
Yeah.
civic engagement stuff. So how do you plan to kind of like reach out to like those like freshly, 18-year-old, like how do you plan to reach those people and, turn them out to vote for you in November?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, because it's hard to get young people involved. They got their lives, and politics is not exciting and fun. But it's like reaching out to the schools, trying to get people to help with the campaign, but talk to the teachers and just trying to find creative ways. But I think social media is really the most effective way to engage to young people. Like I have a TikTok account that we have, but I never use it or check it, so I don't know what's going on there. But I think that's a way to how we try to reach out to young people, but also going to the doors as well. We see the ages. A lot of times when we see a young person, they're away for school and they're no longer living in the district. Um, but the ones that we do, we do have conversations with them and uh, and see what they're interested in and trying to get them involved and try to teach them about the process because I remember when I was 18 I had no idea anything about the legislature and how Albany works and
Mm-hmm.
so I was trying to explain to them how if you get involved and you can make a difference and the young people that are helping out with the campaign right now they're really motivated they're really excited and to make an impact and improve the community. So we try to show it's cool to get involved in local politics. Um, Even though I wouldn't have gotten involved in local politics when I was that age. So, but I wish I did because you really can make an impact and if more young people vote, the stronger their voices. I was sad to see that people who the environment is the number one issue tend to not vote. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so the environmental issues, which is really extremely important for me. Removing nitrates from the water and microplastics, and uh, you know, it kind of takes a back seat because those people who that's an important issue don't vote.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's why it's important. You have one person talk to another person, next to another person, and try to get them involved. So if we can get as many young people involved, and talk young people talking to other young people, once I get my matching funds, I'll be looking to hire young people to do canvassing and help out with the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just trying to. So I'll defer to you as as my young people experts and the best way to gauge the young people community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk with us and answer some of our questions. And if you have anything, you want to leave us with, if you have anything, I'm sure if you want us to email anything out to everyone afterwards, feel free to, I think you all have my email. So feel free to send that to me and we can put that out to our our meeting attendees. If you have any last words that you want to leave us with, but yeah, no, we hope that thank you for we can't wait to help you get elected into Albany in November. So thank you for joining us this
Yeah.
evening.
No, thank you, and thank you for doing this. And but yeah, no, we're gonna win. We're gonna flip AD12, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
all your help.
this is quite literally the third time that I've supported you as a candidate. So
Uh,
I'm super thrilled.
well, third time is the charm.
Yeah.
Yes, not because I remember I was on the Avalon campaign he was on and I canvassed for him then and then I supported his campaign when he was running for the legislature last year. And so
Mhm.
and now again he was running again and I'm like, let's go, third time. Let's help this time's the winning time.
But this is the winning time.
Yes,
This is
Mhm.
this is the
you
time
know
to run.
yeah, this is the time to run. And look, and my opponent is going to make George Santos look like an Eagle Scout. So the Republicans are not happy with him, um, and so we're in very, very good shape.
Yes, no, it's great to see the attitude kind of shift. So
Mhm.
we're super excited. And yeah, so keep us updated on any, campaign things that that you want us to help promote and uplift. We always, I'm sure you've seen on Instagram, we try to do the cross posting thing and,
Mhm.
joint posting things. So
Yep.
if there's
Mhm.
anything you want us to collaborate on or, help,
Yep.
post out to our followers,
Yeah,
are more than happy to do that.
yeah, and I need more followers on my social media accounts. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you have Facebook, but I need more Facebook followers.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
And
Well,
all right.
thank you.
We're just gonna go over, we're just gonna, wrap up the meeting for the Islip Dems part, and then we'll let you guys all go for the evening. So, so our final notes, we are still seeking some additional e-board members. We have filled out, Josh Taveras, who's not here with us tonight, but he's our secretary, and we have Anthony, who kind of filled in for like our event coordinating kind of stuff. He's kind of been helping, with outreach and things like that. And yeah, so we definitely are trying to put together some like career and political opportunities, and we're trying to put it together in a list so that we can send it out to folks. And our next general meeting is going to be on July 9th via Zoom. And so this is what kind of Chris was talking about in the beginning. We are going to try to kind of wrap up our assembly candidate, meets that we've been doing, the Islip Young Dems have been doing. We definitely want to do something, kind of towards the end of summer, early September, with all of our Islip assembly candidates, because we have a pretty strong slate this year. We've got Chris Wallace in AD9. We got Trish Kopp in AD7. We have Craig in AD12, and we've got Phil in AD6. And so we want to, give that. We were thinking about doing like a panel of some sorts and making it kind of like a town hall where, everyone can ask their questions. And then we were hoping to have like a canvassing portion afterwards where people could get like lit and then like distribute it to their neighbors and do something like that. Maybe they could pick up a turf to go knock doors on their own or after the event somehow. But we're definitely still in like the planning stages of it. And we definitely would love to have like your input and what you would like to see and things like that. So if you want to come on July 9th, it's definitely going to be very much a planning meeting, but we'd love to hear your thoughts and what you want to see for this event and things like that. And that's it. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate
Yes, thank you, Craig, for taking time out of your day to come speak with us. And
it.
yeah, I'll send the recording over to your team after we're done. And yeah, so we were so happy to have you. And we're thrilled to have such a strong assembly, such a strong slate of assembly candidates this year who are really, all fighting for us. So
It's great.
it's
Yeah, thank you
amazing.
so much.
All right. So if anybody else has any last minute questions or comments, if not, I think that's all I have for you tonight. So
All right.
thank you
Good.
again.
Thank you. Have a good
All right.
night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig.